Thinking about your ideas to make the Bahamas efficient and productive? Wondering how blockchain ignites creative opportunities? Pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear what Rhonda McDeigan-Eldridge, CPA, and her crew of community got to say about creating the new built environment. You know, we always talk about this new built environment, the intentional environment.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. What we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative 242.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. Join our co-sponsors DomDev Enterprises and Page Investment and our friends at Something to Think About, and join the discussion, and let's hear a lively discussion on these new items that we put on the table and where we need to go. Welcome, Ms. Eldridge. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you very much.
Great. Yeah, your mic is a little low. I gotta turn that up a little bit, are you? But oops, what did I do? I did boom. Yes. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, you been in finance for many years, but then you switched over, and so sometimes you know your purpose carry you a different way. So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a qualified accountant from a professional standpoint. Worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers after finishing university in Canada and the Bahamas, and then went into joined a private bank focused on as a CFO of an asset manager. And a couple of years later, they started to buy local fund administration businesses to start their own. And that, you know, we grew that business in the Bahamas, and then I was transferred to the US in a more regional role. Mm-hmm. And I think about 11 years later, decided they were being acquired. Financial crisis came about, made you rethink life, made you, you know, you sort of look at things differently. You know, I saw a lot of people really have a lot of suffering over work and lost their jobs, lost a lot of their identity. And, you know, you sort of sit back and say, there is something bigger to life than everything we place the value on, all the material things, all the status. And I wanted to give back in a more authentic way. So became an entrepreneur, working a lot with smaller companies, sharing the same things that I had done in corporate, but, you know, helping the smaller businesses. And along the way, started listening to stories. And those stories eventually led to a nonprofit. First event I did really unintentionally, just by chance, was a blockchain event. And I just saw there was a ton of interest in this blockchain. And I came across it in 2015, along with a couple other things, you know, these emerging technologies. And blockchain was what was called an accelerator. Because if you look at the internet was sort of this foundation, but on top of it were these emerging technologies. So blockchain is just one of the things that we focused on, but it was one of the things that led to the Blockchain Business School in the Bahamas. We launched that in 2019, and we now are incorporated in the Bahamas as well. So I keep my foot in both camps. I still do hedge fund audits. I still stay in the alternative investment space, but I also am very passionate about the digital asset space and helping to share the knowledge, provide inclusion and access to other persons.
That's awesome. Now I'm on this $100 billion economy kick. Some people say my head a little off the rocker, but it's built on the pillars of sun, sand, sea, digital, and people. And I believe that if we build those pillars, that we could get to $100 billion of an economy in the Bahamas. And so, but we need to create this new built environment, this detailed environment. So, Madam Producer, you want to put that on the screen real quick so people could see what the definition of that is? Yeah, and so we talked about that it's a political, economic, and social environment of our society formulated through intentional thought and action, something that we tend not to do. Designed to create the greatest opportunity to build the highest quality of life for our citizens, residents, and those subscribing to and supporting the culture of the 242, and which will be sustainable for generations to come. Yes, that's what we're trying to build. And when I was introduced to you as somebody who was able to provide, or you are in that field already, whether you knew it or not, is building this new built environment through your actions. And so we are very pleased to be able to invite you and glad that you accepted to come on and so forth. And so, but I find that Bahamians as a whole, we dream for these new built environments, etc. But that where we are highly efficient and productive because we don't like staying in lines and all those kind of things. But is it plausible for the Bahamas to be significantly more productive? Is that a realistic goal?
I would say yes. I think productivity comes from the mindset. If we are focused and I think a big part of it for me anyway is emotional intelligence, being aware of some of your what your goals are, being very intentional about those goals, and learning to recognize noise and asking
Okay.
yourself, what am I doing in this present moment that I can actually make sure I stay focused on those goals, right? We tend to
Yeah.
sometimes get distracted. And I think if
Right.
we start to be more intentional, that means attention, being present, and very much of the view that when you take or learn to become aware that you're distracted, right? The noise is there. You get back to what needs to be done, and that's productivity. You're more productive. So I meditate daily. I have changed the way I look at my life and
Okay.
situations, and I think then that's the door to creativity and also productivity, because you become more
Yeah.
creative and curious about things.
Well, last month I had the good experience of seeing and observing improved efficiency and productivity, but I wouldn't say that we reached the mark. I had the pleasure of renewing my license for my car, and what was a 2 minute inspection. I pulled right up to the counter to the gate, 2 minute inspection, but then 2 hours later, I'm just leaving after I pay for all of the other stops and bouncing around that happens between that. And so even though we've had these drastic improvements from the 3, 4, 5 hours that might have been a couple of years back, that the process, 20 years into digital now, and we're not embracing these technologies to make life more efficient and productive for ourselves. And so when I look at that road traffic process, I'm thinking based on what I've been told about blockchain and the like, that we could run a program using blockchain to make that whole process even faster. Because I
Yeah.
mean, they have all the information already. So what's your take on that?
I think that it takes a while to get there. I think that when you look at technology, it's not just you. If you look at blockchain and you look at crypto and you look at the noise right now, people are hearing a lot, right? They know it's there. But until we have what I call community building, a community building mindset to share the knowledge and also give government and successive governments, government, you had one government that may have started, a new one comes
Right.
in. I think it does take time and patience. And when you look at digital, it has to start with a platform where you start with what they call self-sovereign ID. You have to be created on the digital platform, and therefore, in order to be created on that platform, you need a platform, and that's what
Right.
blockchain is. So once you have the platform, which we do now, how do you create a person's ID on that platform? Like, when they were born and who puts it on there. So there's the trust that we have in physical government papers and
Right.
offices. Is that on the blockchain? And if that's on the blockchain, then you are created. You were born, in Nassau, you this date or whatever, and once you have that self-sovereign ID, all of the things that could come to make it possible to make everything else in the ecosystem or in the country digital becomes a reality, because you
Right.
now exist digitally, right? And then you would say, what about my skills, where I went to school? Then you start piling all of these other things that create your, I call it the avatar, but the digital version of ourselves. It takes time, because we have a very old system of doing things. And we have to be patient with ourselves and patient with our leaders and patient with businesses to get there.
Right.
COVID actually made it something that was probably a pie in the sky, and you had to
Awesome.
shift. And notice how many Bahamians shifted, right? You could still get, I think Craven could still get your food delivered,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And it forced us to look at things differently. So I would say be patient with the process, be curious about the process, and ask yourself, what are you doing to be part of that process, right? Government is only as good as the people's or people's willingness to adopt a digital economy, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. So now earlier you mentioned that it's a mindset and I guess it's an attitude of sorts. So with our traditional, what I call the colonial mindset, the monarchical, where everything is centralized, one person has all the power at the top and everything has to go from the bottom to the top and what have you. And then we get into environments like blockchain, which is seem to have been designed to be totally opposite, where there's no central to do and what have you. So you shared a little video with us that I'll play now, so people could get an understanding of what blockchain is, and then we'll break off running from there. Is that good?
Great.
All right. So let's what do you do?
Okay, so what is blockchain?
Get it?
It may be helpful to visualize the blockchain as an electronic ledger, a giant digital database that holds a record of transactional data that's accessible to anyone with an internet connection. Think of it like a shared document in the cloud. The information doesn't live in any one place. Multiple people can view, edit, and update the same file from wherever they are, which makes it decentralized. And not only that, but because blockchains store information across a network of personal computers, they're also distributed. We all have access to the system, which means we can all monitor and help run it. This is important because it means the system can't be owned by any one individual or entity. The software is replicated on people's computers around the world, called nodes. These are the computers that power the system by holding and verifying bundles of transactional data submitted by others, known as blocks, in a chronological chain. And to ensure the ledger can't be counterfeited or changed, each individual transaction on the blockchain relies on a form of math called cryptography, which makes the system more secure by making it extremely difficult to corrupt. Now, you might be thinking, so what's the big deal? It's a decentralized database that also happens to be distributed, and it's cryptographically secure. Well, blockchain technology has the potential to change the way we transact money, buy property, trade globally, even how we protect our identities and vote in elections. The possibilities are pretty much endless. It'll be the growing number of developers and entrepreneurs like yourselves just now getting into this space who will invent the future of blockchain.
Awesome, awesome. So now let's bring on Mrs. Roll so that we can. Yes, let's bring on Mrs. Roll to the screen so that we could dig a little deeper into what's going on with the I lost my screen, my notes on blockchain itself, and some of the good things that she is doing at her financial academy in order to advance our nation from strength to strength. So, welcome, madam. How are you today? I
Thank
think your
you.
role.
I'm great. How are you?
Good, 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 good. So we had a little snippet, and we already talked a little bit about mindsets and stuff going forward. So one of the key things that I think I heard him say in there was that it's an autonomous, distributed type environment where everybody could see everything and nobody has control and so forth. What's your take on this whole thing? Because back in the '90s, people was looking at the internet all fuzzy head and everything, and wondering what was gonna happen. And now today, it's like nothing, right? If you don't have internet, you're insane. Some of you, who are you? The young people look at us and say, "Man, who you think you is?" Right? They couldn't even fathom what it was without. So now we're gonna go to what I think is like the third or the fourth iteration. I think we missed a number somewhere, but that's for technical people like me to understand. What do you think? Yeah.
So I just want to start off by saying that over the summer, I actually enrolled in the Consensus Academy's Blockchain Essentials course that was offered through the Blockchain Business School. And Ms. Eldridge, we met earlier this year. And so she kind of sparked my interest in it. And, because I teach financial education,
Right.
this goes perfectly hand in hand with it. So for me, it's actually something that's still pretty new. But I would have walked through the course that took maybe about 10 or so days to complete. But it was really informative, and it really broke down exactly what blockchain is and how it can be used. And so when it coming off of that, um, that really kind of gives you a better idea of, okay, what is this whole blockchain situation? How do you use this? It's a big word, but I promise you that course really breaks it down for you. And even I didn't understand it at first, but in simple terms, it's literally information stored in a block on a chain, and that's literally what it is. And so it stores that information. It helps you to provide access to that information to more than one person, and at the same time it's still secured using these things called a hash. And so that was something that really opened my eyes to see how everybody can have access to something, but it can still be private at the same time. And so that's something that's super beneficial and a great way to organize information using technology. And even with the cryptography, with the public and private keys and all these different things, and only certain people can kind of open it if the key matches another transaction. And it's really not
Yeah.
easy to what's the word I'm looking for? It's not easy to tamper with something because everything has those unique keys attached to it. And once you throw one thing off, everything goes out of whack. And so when it comes to this particular technology or this particular course that offers these classes that talks about it a little bit more, I think persons need to understand exactly what it is instead of just talking about what they think it is, because it kind of gets people nervous if you don't understand what you're talking about, and then everybody jumps on your bandwagon and then it's chaotic. So financial literacy is very important in this whole process. Even having this conversation here today, and I'm so happy that I was able to go through the course. And so with the blockchain and blockchain essentials, so there's a book that we also started looking at as well, a text to help persons to understand it better. So I haven't started reading that as yet, but those are that's a part of my plan to be able to help other persons to understand what blockchain is and to offer the course through consensus to help out our community, like Ms. Eldridge spoke about before. And you also mentioned Web3, and yes, so it's the third phase in the whole evolution of the World Wide Web or the internet, and it's just a little bit more sophisticated than what we know. And a simple example would be something like Apple and Siri, how it's used to communicate, speech recognition, whatever it is that you want this thing to do, it can kind of do it, and kind of combines AI, so artificial intelligence, with it. So It's a great way to organize that information, help persons to see it in plain view. You store it, you track it, you can't easily change it, and you're able to see how everything builds upon each other. So that's what I kind of got from the whole blockchain course. And I'm excited. The Financial Academy is going to be working with Blockchain Business School and Consensus Academy to bring these webinars to persons here in the Bahamas beginning in December. So that's something that we are actually
Working on
thinking
now.
about
Working
right
on, yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that's before you go on. That's great because education is key to me, and the more we get the information out and people become comfortable with it. And so when you respond now, I want you to tell us some of the key words that people need to understand so that they don't be in this mess or
Yeah,
where they
I
feel
can address
so
it.
overwhelmed.
Yeah, I can address that. And I think when we saw the video, I should mention that's a public blockchain, meaning it's readily available to anyone who uses the code to get online. But there are also private blockchains. It could be something where you can have it within governments. You can have a hybrid of the blockchain. You have several versions of how the blockchain could be used. And I think we wanted to, one of the things that people do get confused about is when you hear blockchain and Bitcoin, they get confused and they try to understand, what does this currency mean? And I think I want to just distinguish that because these are words that we need to be more comfortable with, and concepts. We keep it simple. So I always give the example of the super value stamps. Those stamps have a value. We throw them in a bag or in a car somewhere, right? But we know that if we have 60 of them on a sheet, it's $1. Now, let's assuming that we instead of giving out the paper, let's say we want to be good to the environment, instead of doing it that way, let's assume we give it out by phone. And you collect 60 of them and they become $1. That's now not a paper dollar. Even the paper dollar is virtual because you can go to the store and get $1 off something. But let's now assume that it's on your phone, right? That is now a digital currency, right? And you can transfer that to pay for something. It's as simple as that. It's just that putting it on the blockchain, you're able to have a record of it in what they call blocks, right? And so when it comes to the technology, that's what we just saw. It could be public, private, could be hybrid. Then you come to something called Bitcoin and ETH, right? And Ethereum is another form of the technology. So what is that, right? And that I always say to people, and it sounds like I wrote it down tonight just to make sure I phrased it properly. It's an incentive on the protocol or on the blockchain itself. So we saw the blockchain, but to keep that whole system going, there needs to be an incentive mechanism, right? And that is what is called Bitcoin or BTC, whatever you want. BTC is the word that most people are familiar with. And it's created, and this is where people get a little scary and, to start talking about Ponzi schemes. It's created out of thin air. And I know that sounds really, really bad, but it is, right? Because people do something, they solve a problem, or they do something to maintain the system. So this is created out of thin air to give an incentive for those who have connected to the internet and buy their computers, because they've got bills to pay. And in some cases, they're miners, but they do different things. They could be validators on the platform, etc. But basically, they keep the system alive. And that's what the internet is as it is now. But what you have is this protocol called a blockchain, right? And on top of that, it's layer one. You have different layers too. And on top of that, they can build various types of apps. That's what it is in a simple format. So the Bitcoin itself is called a currency because it's created out of thin air for doing something on that platform. And then which have people start to trade on it. So when you see these coins, the important question is to ask, what's the technology beneath it all? Is there some value there? And that is what companies are investing in today. That is what is the value proposition of the blockchain. It is a protocol that people are going to invest in, and you're going to be able to do all sorts of things on that protocol, as you will see as some of the other persons start to talk about what they want to do with it. I mean, you can even put skills on blockchain, right? You
Right.
could your passports and identity on blockchain. No one can touch it. And so the characteristics of blockchain would be that there's public trust. So you trust the code as opposed to trusting any
Right.
one central party like a bank. It's immutable. You can't change it, right? I mean, it's just, I'm sure with quantum computing at some point, it'll probably be some form of that. It's private and it's transparent. You can see everything that's happening, but you just don't know whose transaction it is unless, as Lakeisha said, you are able to unlock that information using something that you have, which is your private key. So I just
Right.
thought
And so we,
to
yeah.
kind of put it in the context of there is something that is an incentive mechanism that people are trading, and then there's this amazing technology, which is the blockchain itself.
Yeah, because I mean, the Bahamas in particular, and particularly around the world and some other places, that we're looking for this distributed form of living, and we want freedom of information so that we can know everything. And to me, the blockchain environment provides all these things. But one of the big things to me that I like about it is this idea that once something is created digitally, then you can't change it. Because I always had this fear when people send me these things around and say, oh, sign this petition, sign that, or sign this and sign that and send it. And I'm like, no, I'm not signing it. And they said, but you're the digital man. You're going to do almost 30 years of that. No, you're not going to do it. But now, because I know how people could tamper with something. But now with blockchain, that seems to be much more secured in how we do that. How it's the technology keeps it secure. That
Yeah.
you need to have permissions from people in order to tamper into or to change or adjust or whatever you.
Yeah, I think someone had a question about the risk,
Yeah. I was just
benefits.
going to ask the producer to pull that back up.
The
Yeah. Would
advantages
you?
are the characteristics I just explained, right? It's public. I mean, but some blockchains are private, and you have different. I think you have 4 different types. It's immutable, meaning that once something is on the blockchain, let's say it's your birth certificate, and you trust the government to give you your birth certificate because that's how you were created, right? I mean, that's how your identity started. So if that's going on the blockchain, once that's there and your parents agree you were born at a particular time, and all the things that relate to you, where you were born, which sex you were, all of that goes on by government. And it's not, if we're trusting the government now with those types of records, those records go on blockchain. So you are now you have an identity on blockchain. And that's the beginning of who you are throughout your life if you start to put all those things on blockchain. The risk is the data, it's just, again, data, right? The data that goes, or the information that goes into a block, or even, for example, a term some may be familiar with is smart contracts, right? It may be faulted. It may have some error. It may have someone who put something that's not correct on there, right? If you're talking about putting the data there. But here's the thing about blockchain. If you put a contract, even a smart contract, everyone can see what you've written. That's the thing. It's there. So someone can say they see a glitch in this, they see a problem with that. And that is where hopefully as we get to know more about how to use the system, we start to, there will be issues, there will be problems. And what happens is that people agree that, okay, we need to change the standards, right? When you look at the web, there are standards. And when you look at blockchain, there are standards, right? Different, and I won't get too much into those standards.
Right.
We all agree that if we're going to do a smart contract, or we're going to do, if we're going to put something, solve what goes on the blockchain, solve the problem and get something on the blockchain, there are protocols, there are standards that we all agree to. So those are the things that when you start to look at the technology, we may not understand all of that, but there are people who actually study it and they become professionals in building this ecosystem. And if we can trust the internet, and we didn't in 1999, and we trust it now, it means that blockchain is going to be that Web3, or that next iteration of the blockchain, the web, that we can, we'll get it right, but we'll definitely be making some mistakes along the way.
Right. And that's the awesome part about it to me, because as we see that from what you're saying, all of you, that we could create whatever solutions exist today in the analog world or in the real world, as we call it, we could superimpose that in the digital world, and it has integrity of not so much like how it was in the past, because on the internet, yeah, we made internet reach. We closed the distance to everything with the original internet, then make somebody across the world sit next to us. But there was this issue of trust and stuff of what is being put out there, whether it's authentic stuff. And now we get that. With blockchain technology, we could do that with the Web3 coming and all of that. So when we come back, we're going to introduce you to some persons, maybe a person who is actually doing these things and making these things work for us. And it could be you. All you got to do is sign up with one of these ladies here, and they could guide you as to what you need to do in order to get started yourself. So, Madam Producer, you're just watching Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles, and we'll be right back.
Sammy's Chicken. There's nothing like it.
When you're looking for clothing, you can shop from store to store. But when you need gowns and tuxedos for weddings, proms, or any black tie event, there's only one name to remember. Buttons Bridal and Formal Wear since 1986. Enjoy gowns and tuxedos for any budget. We'll see you at Buttons Showroom in Cable Beach, Nassau, or visit buttonsformalwear.com. Nobody does formal wear like Buttons.
Scoop, lick, and savor is a smile and memory being made or reminisce. Whether you're at work, out with family on a Sunday, or have friends visiting, flavor will meet expectations in our 32-ounce container for only $10 if you're having a special event as well. Exotic flavors ranging from soursop to Guinness is definitely worthwhile.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. And we're here this evening with Rhonda McDeigan-Eldridge. And we're talking about blockchain, igniting creativity in the opportunities in the new built environment to creators. Welcome back. So we're talking here, and we started to touch on some of the key things. We dealt a little bit about the technology, talked about some teaching, and where my two people gone. And so, Madam Producer, you can bring them on first. Mrs. Roll.
Keisha's back.
And you can also bring on Mr. Aubrey for us. Wait. Sorry?
There he is.
Yeah. So bring on Mr. There's Mr. Aubrey. You know, his microphone is muted. But yeah.
Hello,
So
everybody.
how you doing? So we're talking about the full gamut, and so we're gonna now tap into some things, because you have Mrs. Eldridge has a school, then Mrs. Roll is a teacher who's going to make this thing go big, and then you have the brain boxes, as they call it. You know, you got to put the hoodies on so that they keep the brains from overheating. That's Mr. Aubrey. So, Mr. Abou, introduce yourself to the guests and let them know who you are, what you're about, and then we go from there.
All right. First, I would like to say thanks to Mr. Ryan and Ms. Rhonda Eldridge for bringing me here today. I'm a high school graduate. I'm 18 years old, and I am a junior blockchain developer. And as a junior blockchain developer, we work on the front end, something we call the front end and the back end. Front end is what we see right now, the web page. All right. That's how this is things that we do. How I got started is with the Macon Consensus Academy that was provided to me by Ms. Rhonda Eldridge. And I gained a certificate. And for me to get that certificate, I had to build a project, right? And the project that I built is called a token farm. And users can use this application to invest and gain interest at the same time. All right. And then after that, I continued. I went on another long journey. I went to Nassau. And we had to start a summer workshop. We taught a few kids about blockchain technology. And now, today, this is the last week, November, we're teaching web development, passing it on. Yes, sir.
Cool. So at the end of the day, you will be the one who's going to be causing all of the wheels to turn? No? Yeah? Maybe
Yes,
so?
sir.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good. Keep that goal in mind. Whatever
Yes,
you
sir.
put your mind to, you're going to achieve. That's what we always say on this show. Cool. All right. So we're talking about applications now when getting down into there. So we could help the audience understand what this tool or this environment can be used for. And Mr. Alfred Phillips here, who is one of my bosses of many years and very esteemed gentleman, says, is the use of biometrics to recover information in case of lost key or password permitted or planned?
I know the way I would answer that is last week, I'm taking a digital asset certification course now, and we had last week 2 experts working on biometrics, and they're not as easy as we think they are, because that was the very question I asked as well. And I forget what the answer is, what the answer was that they gave, but definitely using biometrics is something that's happening already. But of course, you do have issues. For example, if you're sleeping and someone puts your phone over your face to unlock your phone, can they do that to unlock, other things that are private? So it is being worked on. I mean, you do have cybersecurity issues. And I forget, unfortunately, I should have taken some notes. I didn't expect that question, but there were a couple of things that they said they were exploring to see how they can deal with this whole problem of losing your private key. Because once you lose your private key, obviously you have a problem. But definitely those are all part of building the system. And, people will see that's a problem. Private keys, losing the private key, everyone's don't lose it, don't share it. But I think that that's a problem to be solved, right? And how do you solve that, maybe on chain or off chain, is what a lot of people are investing in. That's the infrastructure. I mentioned people are investing in this. Those are infrastructure types of investments to strengthen the protocol that we use. I don't know, Regina, if you have, based on what you guys are doing, if you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes, they are. They are using biometrics right now. They have a few apps out there that they are implementing biometrics where you could just you could recover information like Mr. Alfred Phillips said. Yes.
Cool. So we will then soon have the bionic man. You know about the bionic man, or are you too young for that? This man is around $600 million man.
We have
He's as strong as
Minarda. Yeah, Minarda is on. One of the other teachers, she's on as well. She's just seeing you. Yeah, she just finished. I think she had some classes this afternoon.
Cool. Good night to everybody. Did she join the background.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we look at this and we want to use these technologies to create opportunities, what type of opportunities could we create, Aubrey, from what you have learned so far?
Okay, so things that we can do, I mean, with blockchain, right? The blockchain technology and stuff.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So right now, I'm dealing with the cybersecurity aspect, right? You can do many things with blockchain technology. For example, you can use blockchain for the government. You could use it for voting. Other industries such as record management, and all that. Big data, and lots of data storage and stuff like that. There are, you could even down to the big things such as AI, like Ms. Rose said. You could, making robots out there connected with the blockchain technology.
So the average day-to-day activities, when people get frustrated, in NASA, I don't know if you all experience this, but when the light turns green, people must see 10 cars back start blowing their horn to tell you ain't moving fast enough. So everybody wants to move fast. So what are some of the key things that young people see that you could then create apps in order to make things better for you? Anybody could answer the question. Don't worry about hold it. You're not in the box, as they call it, the court box.
I mean, one of the things that they're doing now is to do with property, where you can sort of attach an NFT to tokenize real estate, right? And you can actually do very well. Obviously, you have to get everything that you do in the analog world into a digital world, right? I mean, onto the blockchain. So there are things like that. You can look at driver's license or ID, or one of the things I know that Hyperledger has is if you were stopped by a policeman, or if you go in to buy liquor, they want to see your ID. Well, I mean, if you are 21 and you're a single female, you do not want to show someone your ID with your physical address and all your information on it, right?
Right.
So there are protocols whereby you have what they call zero knowledge. You do not need to know anything about me other than I am of age and I can buy liquor, or I am of age and I have a driver's license, and that is on blockchain. It maintains your privacy, but it serves a purpose in society. I know we have another teacher who wants to come on, because I know she has some I don't know if you can see her there, Minarda.
No, Minarda, if you can hear us, please, the link that we sent, if you could click on that, then that would bring you into the studio.
Yeah, but I think there are about, I think, over 100 major companies using blockchain in one form or the other for various things. They're using it now. PayPal, you can buy like crypto on PayPal. You can get like food programs, for example. If you have a hurricane, I mean, I'm making it relevant to the Bahamas, and supplies are sent to the Bahamas. What happens if some of the supplies, if people steal steal whatever? I mean, we know some things disappear, and we don't know. So let's say that there is food that's donated, or supplies are donated. They can put those supplies on the blockchain, and anytime anything leaves the supply cabinet, you track.
Right.
You can track it by saying every family in, let's say, Rumkey, or we can just say Andros, for example, after the hurricane, they have a digital ID, and every person in that hurricane zone is given maybe basic items to survive on. Let's say water, some other food items. It comes out of this blockchain type of repository we know that this is what's in that digital wallet of, let's say, government or Oxfam or some other organization, you are then identified as someone in the community. And let's say, going back to biometrics, Rogino goes in and says, okay, I'm here to get my supplies, right? And they scan his eyes and they take out of the big supply one family's, supply of food. Then let's say you had 100, you're left with 99. Well, he walks off with one. And then the other person comes. So you're using some form of identification. And in his case, it's his iris that becomes his wallet, right?
Right.
So that may sound a little pie in the sky, but that's happening, right?
We see it in the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Madam Roll.
Yeah, and that's sorry, I was just going
Go ahead. You go ahead.
What Ms. Rhonda said. It's definitely more efficient than using an Excel spreadsheet or writing it down by hand, kind of keeping track of who got what, when did they come. Even as simple as when we had like social services, for example, you record everything as well. Once persons would get their check issued, but if something was to happen and someone can't find the records, if you would have saw that on the blockchain, you're able to see this person came in on this day, this was their check number, and they actually spent the money. So something as simple as that. So you're just kind of switching from manual to digital, and also in a form that's able to be traced, but unable to be tampered with. Well, not for now, at least.
Yeah. Okay, good. Welcome, Ms. Thompson. How are you?
Hi. Oh, she's there. Good. I was just killing time for her. Yes. Hi there, Menarda. I don't know if we
can
see
you hear
her.
her? Oh, she disconnected just now.
Yeah, but
right.
you can do that with food. You can do that with food. For example, they able to trace, let's say it's fish, right? You can trace or you can track the food on the blockchain at every in the supply chain, for example, like
yes.
where the food came from, and if there's food poisoning of some kind, you're able to almost instantaneously find out who bought that supply of fish or meat that's then been tainted, and notify everyone immediately on the chain there's a problem with that particular food item. Toss it out. Now you have to go to stores, you have to put an ad on the paper to say to people, if you bought this baby's chair, or whatever, 1999 and whatever, and you're like, well, I gotta go check this. But they're able to track that type of information. And you could do a whole slew of things with it.
So we should be able to track then immigration issue then. So whoever comes in, we could give them identity, give all the Bahamians or citizens identities, and then it could be. How do we do that, Audrey?
Oh wow! All right.
No.
I'm not sure, but also I know there is something that they also are using the blockchain for, and it should be gun control. I think they should bring that down here as well.
Okay.
Where we use the ID, we connect it with the blockchain technology, and we ensure that you're a certain age before you can get a gun license.
Menarda says she's backstage. She's waiting to be brought in. So if you can.
I'm not seeing her.
No, she will. She said, "I'm in." It says
it's saying her device is not connected. Maybe she could disconnect and connect again and see what's happening.
Okay. Yeah. But I think that we could think with the ID you talked about, like if there's a hurricane, the one thing that we carry with us at all times is our biometrics, right? Our eyes, our fingerprints, etc. That could also be a way. If there's a hurricane, it's a way to identify bodies. It's a way to identify families, children separated from their parents. There are so many things that are out there right now. Ethereum, I think, has about 118 projects that are being supported by some of the biggest names out there, audit firms, Accenture, all these large firms are looking at what I call infrastructure level blockchain, right? Where there is a valuable use case for it. And if that coin is coming out of that, that's great, because the coin then has some value. You can do the present value, the discounted cash flows for whatever is developed on those types of things. But in the Bahamas, I could think of so many things that could be done, but really it isn't for me to think what they are, right? It is really young persons who learn about this blockchain, older persons who learn about it, saying to themselves, what can I do with this technology for myself? What do I see in the Bahamas that's a problem? And how can I solve that problem? And hi,
Hey,
you made it. She's
hi
with Captain.
guys, I'm here.
She's one
Sorry
of the
about that.
teachers as well. So we'll put the floor over to you.
Oh boy. Okay, so I'm on the spot as soon as I reach. What's the
Yeah, yeah,
question?
yeah.
Yes, sure.
Just
Sorry, I
tell
was
us a little bit
sleeping, so I
about
was late.
no problem about yourself, what you're doing, and how you're enjoying this whole journey.
Well, for me, the introduction came from a parent of a student that I had at the time. That's an acquaintance of Rhonda's, and we were talking about crypto digital currency one day at school when he came for his son. He said, I want to introduce you to this lady. She's a Bahamian. She's making big strides in this industry, and we're trying to get a teacher cohort going. We're starting with this course. We want to get you guys informed and up to date so that you can put it out to the students. And, they can in turn get their parents interested, and we're trying to get an adult cohort. And so I came in completely naive. For me, I was saying I met up with Rhonda on the weekend, and we were talking with a couple that was interested in finding out, like an adult, about the program. And I said, for me, the course that we did, it was kind of like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. The definitions were the main things. Each definition was its own puzzle piece. And as we went through the course, it ended up that you could see the full jigsaw puzzle at the end, because those definitions helped to connect everything together. And it really is, that, I guess, would be the definition of the blockchain. My science students know that we study DNA, and there's the chain of all of the chromosomes and the genes, and it follows. And this is the same thing. It's the connecting, but at the same time, the decentralization, taking away that power from these big entities that tell us this is what you have to do because we say so, and putting the power more in our hands. So decentralizing the power, but giving us that independence to be able to work on our own and make those connections along that chain, and have you were saying biometrics. One of the ways that's done now with passports, I have students, my children and other students that go to school in Canada and other countries. The biometrics is a part of that application process. Once you're accepted to the university or college, we actually have to go to the States to a federal building where they take the fingerprints and retina scan. And that is your biometrics that then go into the system. So when you are processed for your study permit, and those same biometrics are saved for after you graduate for your work permit, those same biometrics go through. As long as that passport is valid, those biometrics are valid. Anytime you have to change and update your passport, you would then renew your biometrics to go forward for whatever the next stage of document you're trying to achieve, permanent res, work permit, that kind of thing. So the blockchain then gives us access to that information in our online, our digital wallet. So we have access to it to use it for things like Rhonda said with the ID. People don't have to have access to your address and those kind of things, but this information is saved based on how you entered it into the blockchain. So for me, that's the biggest part. My students are really interested in getting to learn about this in school because they hear people talking about it outside of school. So it's interesting to bring the real world in, because at the point that I've got with teenagers in high school, the most usual question is, what am I ever going to use algebra for in life? So real question.
Calculus.
And I had to explain to them that, well, I had to do it, so you got to do it too. I already got my diploma, so I can't answer that. I can help you get yours, but until education has realized that we need to pull certain things in, like financial literacy. Most kids leave high school, they don't know how to open a bank account, they don't know how to apply for utilities. They don't know how to even just work off an expense account. I have this much money a month, and I have to make sure my bills are paid before I decide to go to that Chinese restaurant down the road that I really like 10 times this week. because all the money mommy and daddy sent me for this month, if I'm blessed enough to be able to attend to college, or even here working, going to UB, I got bills to pay. It's great to think you got money in your account until the bills are due when you realize all the money gone. So just learning things like budgeting and expenses, all of this helps with that, because even just investing in a digital currency, cryptocurrency, something like that, it gives them a way to see where their money that they've invested is building and how it's moving, and the different options that they then can pursue, whether real estate or investing back into something like Bitcoin or Ethereum or all of the other options that they have. It gives them that leg up in not having to research on YouTube, maybe getting caught up in a pyramid scheme or something that they don't know about, maybe getting caught up in just taking information from someone who means well because they heard about something and they thought it was great, but it ended up not really being so great. So giving them that foreknowledge and ability to make their own decisions is what attracted me so much to the program, because I've got a small school. It's not a big school. It's a small private school, and we're very personalized and individualized in the curriculum that the students use. And so this way, it gives them, some of those electives that now they may actually want to pursue in college, whereas before they had no clue what it meant. So they're like, I'm steering clear of anything that says anything about money or numbers, because I'm not a math person. I'm not a business person. I don't want to do that. But hey, I may want to open a beauty salon, and learning about blockchain and investments that I can make can help me grow my product later on, can even help me to sell my product. So it's giving them that leg up. That is where I think most of us as teachers are coming from, and just trying to give our students a leg up that we didn't have, or that they may not be able to get some other way.
So Rhonda used the word community earlier, and so now we got basically three parts of the community on the screen with me today. So how big is the community today in terms of functions?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of looking at the data from when we started the courses, I mean, we've touched about 7,000 persons since 2016. Now, when we did the first blockchain course in the Bahamas during COVID, well, we did something in physical form in 2019, and we had about 171 students who registered for that. And then COVID came, and we then went to virtual. The thing about virtual is it was just global. I mean, we had over 330 persons who signed up. 60% of those were from the Bahamas. They had access to the course, and then last year it went down to 221. And then this year we did a physical event at Breezes, and we had a smaller group of students, which we wanted, and then we did workshops, breakout sessions on various things. And what we do is we go from the event, and then we have a smaller community. So right now we have the cohort. I think it's about 20 of us in the cohort. We had some students who joined us. We keep it purposely very small, and we have persons from Europe, Asia, Canada, the US, Bahamas in that cohort, and I think Cayman, right? Cayman Islands, yeah. And it's a group of people, so we learn together. So it's not just students. And then we have another one for the teachers, and that's where Lakeisha and Minarda are. And that's a smaller cohort. We have BAMSI as well. Everyone from BAMSI completed the course as well. So we have, at this moment, there are probably about 7 different types of communities.
Okay.
All doing very different things, and it's learning together. And the idea is to cascade the knowledge. So Minarda and Lakeisha will pass on their knowledge. Rogino is doing a web development course now with some students, I think mostly from Temple Christian, if I'm not mistaken, Rogino. But take the knowledge, and the best way to learn is you learn something, and then you have to really teach someone else, because you have to think, well, gee, how can I change this concept so that it's simplified a bit more? We have given out, we have about 20 textbooks that were brought down to the Bahamas. Lakeisha has hers, Minarda has hers. We're going to the community and we say, look, our teachers want to do this, but we need to pay them. We need to pay the teachers so that they can put their curriculum together and introduce this topic into the classrooms and get it into the classroom sooner rather than later. And I think that that's what we've said in the group. I told them that. I said, I'm going to go out and beg for money. And they're like, and all of them were paid. They got their checks this summer. So we incentivize them. We want to show them we see them, we respect them, we want to work with them, and their time has value. Everyone in our community, we try to say we may not have a lot, but what we have, we share, and everyone will tell you that's what we do.
So everybody is a block on your ultimate blockchain.
Everybody is a kid on the block.
Yeah. So it seems, the generations, what's that? Y and Z are pretty much all digital. They like fish in the water kind of thing for digital. So I could see all of the children wanting to learn stuff that are digitally related. So what do we need to do to get this to the next level so that the majority or the wider community could grab the bug or want to get involved?
So the two main,
or y'all can get out to them.
Yeah. The barriers to entry would be, as I said, we first need to have digital access, right? So to become part of the digital world, you need a device, and a device without data, and of course less electricity to power the device. Those are things that are fundamental. What I've said to people is, and even this summer when we were given options of getting tablets, I said tablets are not going to help our kids with code. They need hardware, they need computers with hardware. Rogino and Felton both got those types of devices in order to advance into becoming developers. So we could spoon feed them with a smartphone. We could spoon feed them with get a tablet. No, we need computers with devices. With data, hardware, and then because then the world becomes, the world becomes a little different, and there's not a barrier to entry with that. And then the second thing or third thing would be knowledge. Share the knowledge, right? And be open in community building. And I think our community is such that I don't think anybody would ever ask a question in our group and someone doesn't chime in. Like if it's early in the morning, we wake up, the lady from Portugal last week, she's like, oh, I went through that and you need to check your spelling, you need to check this or that. But I think we need mentorship. We need people who are, if you know how this technology works, make it English, make it simple language, right? Because that's a barrier to entry. People tend to want to charge everyone. Nothing is free, but if we learn together, it becomes less expensive, right? And like the textbook, if you go on Amazon, the textbook is $50. Well, we brought it in, the teachers paid $40. And they like, the teacher said, I'm coming, I need $10, I need But then what we now need to do is give the teachers something they can take into the classrooms, right? And that would be the next step. So how do you support that? It's not a lot of money to do that, but let's say if every company decides, okay, we're going to get 50 companies together and each one of them put in let's say $1,000, that's doable. But what happens, we can probably reach, the network effects of that is we can probably reach with one teacher, 10 students. And if you tell those 10 students to educate 10 students or 2 students, do you see the network effects?
The 10x effect.
That's what we've been doing. So we don't want to be in the way, as we're not really like a formal school. It's not just blockchain. We teach competencies and character as well. And the soft skills are needed. Problem solving, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, all of those things. But I think proper devices with hardware, people open to learning and always learning, because that's the thing that we talk about often in our group. Reduce the cost of this, particularly to the public schools and to government. We should help our government. Everyone is looking to the government sometimes to save us, solve the problems. Let's empower them, right? By learning and then going in and volunteering to teach, or reducing the cost of teaching it. It doesn't have to be expensive. And I'm no politician, but I don't know what it costs. But I love my country and I want to see what I can do. And I love my people and everything in our group. We never have any problems. Everybody's getting along. It's beautiful. So devices, the knowledge, reduce the cost of access and inclusion, and then have this mindset of building. But you put it about, it's not about you. It's building something bigger than you. And that comes through empathy. That comes through just having more compassion and being patient with those who don't immediately understand this technology, because they're the ones that are going to fall between the cracks. So I hope that's helpful.
Oh, yeah, I think it's helpful for me. I saw Pacino shaking his head. I don't know if he was trying to add something to the picture or not. But
Rogino, you could probably talk about
I
it.
agree.
You could add to it.
Oh boy. Okay. So I just went completely blank just now. What you were saying? Yeah? Sorry.
yeah,
Okay, well, tell them
Sorry,
about
Dad, go ahead.
tell them about the Web 101. I mean, how you guys are doing that. You are on Zoom and you have contracts in place. I mean, it's an entrepreneurial venture for you guys, right?
That's right. So right now we started this. It's a cohort. It's a two-week cohort. It's being hosted on Zoom and Discord. All right. We're teaching web development, the basis of web development. It's like a bite-sized course. We teach, let's say, just the basics, HTML, HTML for structure, CSS for designing, and then right now we're on JavaScript, which is how to make the website more dynamic. And yeah, that's going pretty well. Everyone is interacting with each other, and yes, it's really a new experience for me, and I really thank Ms. Rhonda for bringing me here. Thank you.
So
There are
no
adults are there, by the way. No adults are in that class. Sorry.
Right. And so from a young people's point of view, where do we see all of this go in a 5-year period? I mean, where do you want it to be? What would be your vision? What needs to be? Yeah.
Well, right now, technology nowadays is a necessity. Right? Everyone needs technology right now. I believe 5 years from now, the future generation can be doing this as well. We could be building together, working along with each other. It's all about collaboration. That's what I would say.
Right. Collaboration is key.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Well, time does fly, and 5 years, we think that's a long way away, but when we started this an hour ago, everybody thought that hour would never reach, but now it's hour gone. And we're glad that Ms. Thompson Powell was able to grab in and show and contribute, even though the man outside was trying to keep her from getting on the screen. I don't know.
He was ready to buy that book. He wanted that book from her.
Yeah. And so forth. Ms. Rule, I also thank you for joining us. And Rhonda, as usual, you brought your community to the table and helped people to understand what is this technology, what the services that we can do from it, because it's more about services than the actual technology, and how we could build communities to be better quality life for us all. And so, something to think about. Thank you all for taking the time to join us and share with us. And I'm sure you'll be friends with us for a long time, so we could bring you back, maybe one at a time or thereabouts, so that we could drill into something more deeper in the specific, particularly after you get rolling a little more. And we're looking for that special app, so I could beat my chest on the show and say, yeah, boy, I know,
Yes, sir.
I started, Raymond man like do that, so forth. Cool. Anything you want to say before we go on?
No, I'm just grateful to work with such a wonderful group of people. I mean, I think, it's just always good when I see Lakeisha. She's always got this effervescent smile. I keep telling her she's just got a great personality. I went looking a jollification for Menarda because we had and it was great to meet Rodgino for the first time in Texas, where we all went. We went as a community. So that's what it's all about, building community.
Awesome. Cool. But like we say, we thank you all for taking the time to join us, and I'm really looking for this road traffic app, Rodgino, because I don't see why they can't scan my barcode and everything comes up. I don't have to move. I gotta go stand up there in the sun for 3 hours, 4 hours. Then the mom tell me where my ID is or where my certificate is. All them stuff, they already have them. Why? I don't need to be digging on those.
Well, you know what? You got an intern right here. You can hire him to start doing that for you. So there you go.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I'm putting a plug in now so I could get my sponsors to know what we fighting for. But my thing is to try and find all of the things in government and in our operation that is frustrating our community. And if we could find better ways to do that, then I think our quality of life automatically is going to rise. People can be less frustrated. We'll have less crime. We'll have less this, whatever. That's just my general mindset. But people think I'm a little off base. So, but thank you kindly all.
Good night.
Good evening to you all. Enjoy, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative 242.